Liquor Traders Association has once again expressed concern over what seems to be government's linking of alcohol and the spread of COVID-19. The association says this is a false interpretation and government must follow the science. As you'll remember, alcohol sales have often been limited or banned as part of government's response to the pandemic, resulting in major financial implications to the sector. We've had conversation after conversation with the association's spokesperson, Ntimane. He joins us once again this morning. Lucky, a very good morning to you. And thank you so much for joining us here on the South African Morning. The expression of the concern, is it a case of the LTA saying to government, we've seen this movie before, we've read the script before, we know how you guys have rolled before, do not think about it if you are seeing the numbers spiking, that you want to then come to us as the liquor traders?
Certainly, thank you for the opportunity. So we actually wrote a letter to the Minister of Health as part of our submission to the Notifiable Communicable Diseases Regulation that is actually, the deadline is tomorrow, the 24th of April. Our concern is that, the wording on the draft regulation seems to point to a fact that there is a causal relationship between alcohol and COVID-19. And it's actually been very curious that you will find under these draft regulations, the sale, the distribution, and the consumption of alcohol under the National Health Act. We feel that this is disingenuous from the side of government. In fact, we are even seeing a scenario where government is moving away from the state of disaster and creating a day-to-day regulation that will be under a single minister who will actually hamper the rights of every South African in terms of their movements and their ability to purchase alcohol legally. So we feel that this is unfair, but we've made submission to that regard.
Before the submission that you've put forward to government, has there not been any engagements between the LTA and government just to essentially keep your finger on the pulse and find out where government is, what government is thinking? They maybe then find out where you are, what you're thinking, because you've also come out, to express your concern, about alcohol being sold a particular way. You've always been keeping your finger on the pulse. You've always been there, being proactive with your engagements with government. Has there not been those engagements throughout since the last banning of alcohol?
No, certainly. We haven't yet engaged with government. The ministers, Ibrahim Patel in particular, continue to be blue tickers when we send him messages, when we request for a meeting. And the presidency also ignores us. We've sent countless letters to that office and we continue to be ignored. But we're not going to give up. We're not going to tire. We'll keep reaching out to government so that we can sit on the table and find ways in which we can protect lives and livelihoods. We are equally concerned, Morena, by the rising number of cases in the past 2 or 3 days, which points to a direction that there might be a fifth wave coming. So we are urging government to sit with us so that we can find ways in which we can both overcome the fifth wave without having to subject the alcohol industry, which employs 1 million people, into perpetual lockdowns and restrictions that were to endure that amount to almost 26 weeks. So we feel that government should come and engage with us. The president made a remark that he wants to create a social compact that is going to engage with the industry to ensure that we are able to get through all these waves unscathed. So we feel that the time is now right for us to engage with government. So our doors are open for those engagements to happen.
Your submission to government could be seen as a trauma response, and by trauma response I mean because alcohol has been banned, has been regulated so severely over the pandemic, over the last 2 years of the pandemic, that you could be feeling that since you are always the first one in the firing line, that you might be the first one in the firing line now that we're sitting with 4,631 cases just before winter. But realistically, if you were to look at the handling of the sale of alcohol in the last couple of months, at least again, since the last time alcohol was banned or regulated, do you genuinely feel that government will be coming for you first again?
Government has shocked us in many ways in the past, but we have no reason to believe that they will try that stunt this time around. If you look back in September, when the sale of alcohol was eased in terms of restrictions up to date, we haven't seen any issue or any rise in the number of cases that could be linked to the consumption of alcohol. Hence our submission that talks to there is no causal relationship between COVID-19 and alcohol. So certainly we are not scared that we'll be banned or whatsoever. Ours was actually to make a submission in terms of the National Health Act to say that you cannot include the sale, the distribution and consumption of alcohol under the National Health Act because it is not a competency of the Minister of Health. If anything, you should be dealt with as an economic effort and not as a health issue.
Lucky, you're not scared that alcohol might be affected should there be a reworking of regulations by government anytime soon. You're not scared because you are confident that as the LTA and every other liquor association, all the other stakeholders in the industry have been doing what needs to be done, have been doing what government has expected of you, and have even gone beyond the extra mile to ensure that regulations are adhered to, that liquor traders are doing more than just adhering to the regulations. So you're confident. That's why you're not afraid that they will come for you first. You're confident that you've covered all your bases.
Yes, certainly, Morena. I mean, if you look at liquor manufacturers, SAB as well as Distel have opened up their manufacturing facilities for vaccination sites. And we've encouraged our liquor traders as well through our tavern rallies that were held across the country to vaccinate. So in terms of supporting government's efforts to fighting COVID-19 through a non-scientific model, which is vaccination, we have done our part. But also we continue to engage with liquor traders, on tavern compliance to ensure that not only did we comply with COVID-19 regulations, but also they continue to comply with the license regulations. So we have done our part. There certainly is no need for government, to use a blunt object which has been to ban or restrict the sale of alcohol. So we are confident that we're not going to be banned. If anything, government should talk to us so that we can find sustainable ways that will continue to support the lives and livelihoods that are dependent on the alcohol industry without putting the fear of God on the industry itself.
It could be fair to say that the liquor industry has been the hardest hit outside of tourism and hospitality. I mean, just a month without the sale of liquor in this country, or any country around the world for that matter, is just billions of rands that essentially, excuse the pun, go down the drain. What's the recovery been like? I mean, I know it's been a short period. The last time when the regulations were eased, it was in September. That was just 7 months ago. So what has the recovery been like?
Certainly. So we've lost almost an equivalent of about 1.3 billion liters in a period that we've been banned, which is equivalent to about 26 weeks, which is almost like half a year that we've not been able to trade in alcohol. Our biggest concern, Morena, in that space is that we have now managed to develop an illegal market that competes with the legal market, which is the illicit trade of alcohol, which now accounts for 10% of the total legal industry. So that is almost, in rand value, 20 billion rand. So these guys are now continuing to compete with us. They sell their alcohol at an average of 49% less than what you sell at. So we now have this monster that we've created through these unnecessary bans and restrictions, and we have to fight that. That is the only thing that is delaying our recovery efforts. But I must say that we are happy where we are. We feel that we are on the right track in terms of us being able to recover. Obviously, we are concerned that the floods in Durban really hit hard our liquor traders in that space. Our understanding is that almost 100 restaurants in that province have not been able to open because of the flooding. So we are concerned equally in that space that our traders who were supposed to enjoy the benefits of an Easter holiday so that they can fully recover from the losses that they had to suffer because of the alcohol bans, we're not able to. But we're not complaining. We'll dust ourselves off and be able to continue to support our families through selling alcohol.
The illegal industry, the monster, as you call it, do you feel you're able to beat it?
It's a tough one, Morena, because the illicit market is not only reliant on alcohol to fund its activities. This is a criminal syndicate, that deals in other things beyond just selling illicit alcohol. So the funds that they derive from selling alcohol, which is very lucrative for them, funds other criminal enterprises. But we are working very closely with the Minister of Police and also the new National Police Commissioner to ensure that we are able to assist in stamping out, the ruthless thugs that are in our space that should not be operating on our space. 20 billion rand worth of alcohol per year in that space is something that, should not be allowed to happen. We'll keep on doing our part. Our liquor traders have been trained and educated to ensure that they do not buy alcohol that is not coming from the legal sources, which is the legal manufacturers that we have as a country. But we also want to encourage our consumers, that they should be also alert and not buy alcohol that is being sold on the streets, because they might be as well supporting this criminal element. So we urge everyone, community, society, as well as our liquor traders, to be aware, to be vigilant when purchasing alcohol and only buy from relevant sources.
Lucky, thank you so much for joining us here on the South African Morning on eNCA this morning. That is, of course, Lucky Ntimane from the National Liquor Traders Association, just weighing in on some of government's proposed new regulations, which will be permanent guidelines to how COVID is handled. Of course, the public has until the end of Sunday to submit comments, and something that just came in those, of course, regulations was of concern to the National Liquor Traders Association, something that they hope they can engage with the government